Here is something most people over 50 don't know. A person with a completely normal body weight, someone whose doctor has no complaints about the number on the scale, can have a higher risk of dying early than someone who is technically obese. Research found that normal weight men with excess belly fat have more than twice the risk of early death compared to overweight men who don't carry fat in their midsection. For women, having extra belly fat raises early death risk by 32%, even at a healthy weight. So if you've noticed your waistline growing after 50, even when the rest of you hasn't changed much, that's worth paying attention to. Not because of how it looks, because of what it means for the next 20 years. There are two kinds of belly fat, and they are not the same thing. The first is the soft layer just under your skin, the part you can pinch. That makes up about 90% of your body fat, and, as far as researchers can tell, it's mostly harmless. The second kind is what doctors call visceral fat. This is the fat that sits deep inside your belly, wrapped around your liver, kidneys, and intestines. You can't feel it, you can't pinch it, and it's the one that causes problems. Dr. Samuel Klein, who leads the Division of Geriatrics and Nutritional Science at Washington University School of Medicine, has linked visceral fat directly to insulin resistance, high blood pressure, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and fatty liver disease. The reason it's so harmful is that it sits right next to a major blood vessel leading to your liver. The inflammatory chemicals this fat releases go straight into the liver, where they start disrupting how your body manages cholesterol and blood sugar. A study that followed 94,000 adults for over 10 years found that people with excess belly fat were about 30% more likely to develop colorectal cancer. A separate study tracked more than 150,000 postmenopausal women for roughly 20 years and found that belly fat raised their risk of early death from heart disease and cancer, regardless of what the scale said. And research published in 2025 has connected abdominal obesity in middle-aged adults to early brain changes associated with Alzheimer's disease. So why does belly fat become such a problem after 50 specifically? 3 things are happening in your body, and they're all connected. The first is muscle loss. After 50, you lose roughly 1 to 2% of your muscle every year. After 60, that rate speeds up. Muscle burns calories even when you're sitting still. When it disappears, your metabolism slows, and fat, especially belly fat, fills in where the muscle used to be. According to UT Southwestern Medical Center, somewhere between a quarter and nearly half of American seniors have meaningful muscle loss. You can be eating exactly the same way you did at 45 and still gain weight at 55, simply because your body has quietly changed underneath you. The second factor affects women specifically: menopause. Before menopause, estrogen directs your body to store fat in your hips and thighs. When estrogen drops sharply after menopause, that changes. Fat storage shifts to the abdomen and toward the deeper, more harmful visceral fat. Women gain an average of 1.5 pounds per year during this transition. But even women who don't gain a pound on the scale often notice their belly getting larger. That's not imagination. That's biology, documented in multiple large studies. The drop in estrogen also makes the body less efficient at managing blood sugar, which means more fat gets stored in the midsection. The third factor is stress, and this one affects everyone equally. When you're under chronic stress, your body keeps the hormone cortisol elevated. Visceral fat has more cortisol receptors than fat anywhere else in the body, meaning it responds to stress more aggressively. High cortisol makes you hungrier, pushes more fat into your midsection, and can even trigger the creation of new fat cells. Poor sleep makes this worse because disrupted sleep also raises cortisol. A study of more than 80,000 participants found a direct link between prolonged cortisol exposure and abdominal weight gain. Now, let's talk about what does not work, because a lot of people are spending real time on the wrong things. Crunches and sit-ups do not burn belly fat. This has been tested. In 2011, researchers had people perform 7 different abdominal exercises 5 days a week for 6 weeks. Those people got better at the exercises, but their bellies were no smaller. A 2022 review of more than 1,000 participants reached the same conclusion. Exercising a specific muscle does not burn the fat sitting above it. When your body burns fat for energy, it pulls from stores all over your body, not from the area you're working. Ab exercises do build core strength, which helps with balance and fall prevention, but they won't shrink your waistline on their own. So what does work? 3 things, and they work best in combination. The first is walking. The American Heart Association recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate activity per week for older adults, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. A 2024 review in JAMA Network Open looked at 116 clinical trials and confirmed that this level of brisk walking produces measurable reductions in waist circumference, not just general weight loss, specifically the belly. If 30 minutes feels like too much at first, 2 15-minute walks give the same benefit. The second is strength training, and this is the most underused tool for people over 50. A 2022 review in Sports Medicine, now cited by Mayo Clinic, confirmed that resistance training reduces body fat, fat mass, and visceral fat in healthy adults. UT Southwestern recommends 2 to 3 sessions per week, about 30 minutes each. You don't need a gym. Resistance bands, light dumbbells, or bodyweight exercises like squats and wall push-ups all count. The reason this matters so much after 50 is that rebuilding even a small amount of muscle raises your resting metabolism. Your body starts burning more calories all day, not just during the workout. The third is what you eat. The most well-studied dietary approach for this age group is the Mediterranean diet: more vegetables, fish, legumes, nuts, and olive oil, and less refined bread, sweetened drinks, and processed food. A study in JAMA Network Open in October 2023 followed 1,500 adults who combined a Mediterranean diet with modest calorie reduction and exercise. They saw a 5% or greater reduction in visceral belly fat within 1 year. A separate study that same year found that eating this way was linked to roughly a 20% lower risk of early death. One part of the diet that deserves specific attention is protein. Most people over 50 aren't eating enough of it. The standard dietary guideline recommends 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, but a 2023 review in the Journals of Gerontology found older adults may need closer to 1 to 1.6 grams per kilogram to maintain muscle. A 2024 review of 47 studies confirmed that getting above 1.3 grams per kilogram builds muscle, while falling below 1 gram per kilogram leads to losing it. In plain numbers, a 160-pound person needs roughly 75 to 85 grams of protein a day. 3 eggs in the morning, a chicken breast at lunch, and a cup of Greek yogurt as a snack gets you most of the way there. If you have kidney disease, talk to your doctor before increasing your protein. That's a genuine medical consideration for that condition. The scale is also the wrong tool for tracking this. Your waist measurement tells you far more about visceral fat risk than your weight does. The American Heart Association, the CDC, and the World Health Organization agree. Men with a waist over 40 inches are at elevated risk for heart disease and diabetes. For women, that threshold is 35 inches. To measure correctly, stand straight, wrap a tape measure just above your hip bone, breathe normally, and read it after you exhale. Dr. Colleen Christmas at Johns Hopkins Division of Geriatric Medicine has said plainly that BMI is often misleading for adults over 65 because it can't distinguish muscle from fat. A person can have a normal BMI and still carry dangerous levels of visceral fat. The waist measurement is the more useful number, and most people have never taken it. After 60, muscle loss speeds up and becomes harder to reverse. The research is consistent. Earlier action produces better results. Adults who maintain their muscle mass reduce their fall risk by more than 30%, according to Harvard Health. That's the difference between a stumble and a serious injury. And a serious injury in your 70s can set off a chain of events that changes your independence entirely. Belly fat after 50 is driven by muscle loss, hormonal shifts, stress, and poor sleep, not simply by eating too much. According to a 2025 report in the Journal of Nutrition, more than half of the calories the average American adult now consumes come from ultra-processed foods. That single fact explains a great deal. The strategies that address belly fat are well established and consistent across major medical institutions. Regular walking, 2 or 3 resistance training sessions a week, more protein, less processed food, and knowing your waist measurement. None of this requires being athletic. None of it requires a gym. It requires doing the right things consistently over months, because that's how long it takes for the body to respond. The research is there. The question is whether the people who need it most are actually getting it.